Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you're a psychology student and you've ever found yourself just staring at a blank page, absolutely dreading the start of a new lab report, then you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break down, step by step, how to write a concise and really powerful introduction that's going to set you up for a great grade. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the big picture, the winning blueprint. Then, we're going to zoom in on 4 simple, actionable parts. And to wrap it all up, we'll connect everything directly to the official grading rubric, so you know exactly what your professor is looking for. All right, let's jump right in. You know that feeling, right? You're staring at that blinking cursor, and you feel like the intro has to be some kind of perfect masterpiece. Well, I've got some good news. It doesn't take magic, it just takes a plan. Does this look familiar? Of course it does. You've got your data, you've got some ideas floating around in your head, but actually translating all of that into what your professor is looking for, man, it can feel like trying to solve a huge mystery. Well, today, we're going to solve it.
And that right there is the big secret. A top-scoring introduction isn't about using fancy words or writing a giant literature review. It's about following a clear, logical, and honestly, a surprisingly simple formula that you can use every single time.
And here it is. This is the formula. It's just 4 steps that take you from a really broad idea all the way down to a super specific point. First up, you have the opening hook to grab the reader's attention. Then the core question to say exactly what you're studying. After that, the logical why explains your reasoning. And finally, the clear prediction makes a testable claim. So let's break down that first piece. You know, they say first impressions are everything, and the start of your intro is no different. This is your chance to immediately signal to your reader why this research actually matters. I want you to think of this as your why should I care moment. You're not getting into all the nitty-gritty details yet. You're just setting the stage, establishing why your topic is relevant, and you're going to do it in just a couple of sentences. The rules for this part are super simple. Start with a big real-world issue, something people can relate to. Then, quickly bring it around to the specific topic of your data set. And the key here, really, is to keep it short. 3 to 4 sentences is the absolute sweet spot. You want to get them hooked without bogging them down. So, let's check out a real example. See how this starts with a broad, relatable problem? Student distress. We get it. But then it immediately pivots to introduce a new, interesting angle. The idea of social support. This is perfect. It creates a little bit of tension that your research question is now perfectly positioned to answer. Okay, you've got your reader's attention. Now it's time to get down to business. This next part is the absolute heart of your introduction. It's where you state, without a doubt, exactly what you are investigating. Your research question is like a bridge. It takes your reader from that big, general topic you started with and leads them directly to the specific variables in your study. And the most important word on this slide is precise. There should be zero confusion about what you're asking. Now you've got to notice how the wording of your question has to perfectly match your study's design. If you're doing a mediation analysis, you're asking if one thing explains the link. You're looking for the how or the pathway. But if you're doing moderation, you're asking if a relationship depends on something else. You're asking when or for whom this effect happens. Getting that specific language right is absolutely crucial. So, you've told the reader what you're asking. Great. Now you have to convince them why it's a question worth asking in the first place. And that's where your rationale comes in. Now listen, this is really important. This is not a mini literature review. Seriously, don't go citing 10 different studies. All you need to do is build a short, tight, logical argument for why your question makes sense. 3 to 5 sentences is all you need. So let's see what that looks like in practice. For the mediation project, the logic is that good teaching doesn't just magically make students happy, it works through the mechanism of making them more motivated. For the moderation project, the logic is that parental monitoring isn't some magic wand. Its effectiveness really depends on what the teenager's friends are like. See, both are just tight, logical arguments. All right, we've made it to the final piece of our blueprint, the hypothesis. This is where you stop asking questions and you start making a specific, testable claim about what you actually expect to find. A good hypothesis has 3 rules, and they are non-negotiable. 1, it has to be specific enough that you can actually test it. 2, you have to write it in the future tense. We hypothesize that. And 3, it needs to directly mirror the statistical test you're about to run. And please, whatever you do, avoid vague statements like, "We expect there's a relationship," I mean, that's not a scientific hypothesis. A strong one spells it all out. It clearly states the direction and the nature of the effect you're predicting, naming every single variable involved.
And here you can see some strong hypotheses in action. The mediation one clearly predicts that motivation will be that middleman, that it mediates the link. The moderation one predicts that peer influence will change the main relationship, that it moderates it. They are both crystal clear and totally ready for testing.
So, we've walked through the entire 4-part blueprint. Now for my favorite part. Let's see how following this structure connects directly to you getting the best possible grade.
Look, this isn't just some good advice I made up. It's literally a reverse-engineered guide to the grading criteria. Think of what's coming next as the ultimate cheat sheet for your introduction.
Just look at this. It's almost like we had the answer key all along. The criteria for an excellent score line up perfectly with our 4 steps. They want a strong, engaging, opening context. That's our hook. They want a clearly states research question. They want a logical rationale, and they want clear, testable hypotheses. They are literally asking you line by line for the 4 parts we just covered. So you see, this 4-part structure isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's a direct roadmap to hitting every single requirement for a top score. When you build your intro this way, you are systematically checking off every single box for that excellent grade.
At the end of the day, your introduction is your first impression. And by making it clear, logical, and focused, you're not just writing a paper, you're showing that you're a thoughtful scientist. It's the first word in your scientific story. So the only real question left is, what's your last word going to be?